The greatest evolution in B2B selling in the last 25 years has clearly arrived. AI teammates are here. They actively sell with you, unlock instant capacity, and completely change the game. So let's talk to someone who's been on this journey with us from the very beginning, a pioneer in reimagining B2B sales, none other than Jennifer Jones, Global Vice President at Dayforce. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your company?
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Thanks for the opportunity. So my name is Jennifer Jones. I am a Global Vice President of Solution Experience at Dayforce. So my team is the technology and product support mechanism inside the sales organization. We're actually a part of the pre-sales organization.
Well, and it's been wonderful getting to know you over the last few years. And I was really excited for this interview today because you've actually been working with Ava from the very, very beginning. I think that you were the very first person we called, the very first person that had access, and which is why you're the perfect person to lead this discussion today, because you've seen it all. And my first question to you is, well, how have you seen Ava evolve from just a initial concept to now a trusted teammate?
Yes. And, we really appreciated that invitation to be in there early. And it was an honor, but we really enjoy trying out new things and being innovative and disrupting ourselves when we can. And it's been a really fun process to be involved in. So when I first got access to Ava, she did a handful of interesting things. And those things became the springboard of some ideas that really stretched our minds as to the real potential here. And, at the time, AI was just starting to be a buzzword that us, just out doing our jobs in mainly non-technical means we're starting to hear about. And so this concept of Ava was really interesting. And of course, she's come a long way since then.
Well, I think even back the first time, this was still, we were just texting, chatting with Ava. And some of the things that you've even opened my eyes to use cases you've done now that you're fully fledged, talking with her in avatar format and getting coaching in these different dimensions. What moments stood out to you as maybe where you realized this was going to be something fundamentally different for sales teams?
Yeah, and that's a good example of where we can use Ava to do some role playing. That's an example of things that we didn't coach her on, but she was able to reason and fill in the gaps between the big rock things that we coached her on to be able to answer questions and participate in scenarios that we just thought of when we got creative. So those are things like, very simple things like asking her to create an email in a particular sales methodology that we didn't train her on, or to create a demo script in a particular methodology, again, that we didn't train her on. And a real light bulb moment was when we got creative and just said, hey, how did I do in that meeting? And the coaching that she gave with no training from us was really along the lines of what we would expect to hear from a good sales coach. So then we said, gosh, we need to put away our limiting beliefs and really try to use this tool to the max.
Well, some of those examples as well, I love those powerful like AI use cases, but a lot of panels that we do and folks that we speak with, a lot of the discussion is, well, it can't just be AI for the sake of doing interesting things. It needs to tie up or ladder up to some important business initiative or transformation or a very specific part of the process.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about the why behind Ava at Dayforce and what you guys are trying to achieve and looking to solve?
Yeah. So it's become this underlying perpetual problem of how do we help our people really wrap their minds around and synthesize the volume of information that they need to first know about a prospective customer and marry that with all of the information internally about our company, our product, our services, our competition, the HCM landscape. It's becoming almost impossible. And so luckily, here comes AI and specifically Ava at what must describe as just the right time, where it could start to feel hopeless. And Ava does that synthesis, boils it down, and points out the right piece of information at the right time in the deal. And that has been a dream come true.
Well, I think there's a lot of individuals out there too that when they think about getting AI up to speed or working with AI, they wonder like, what is the lift to get started? And will I be building for 12 months? Will I be customizing things? Do I need a team of people to keep this ongoing? And I think this is fascinating because you single-handedly had trained Ava at Dayforce. So maybe you could talk a little bit about how do you get AI up to speed to then
Mhm.
help your teammates?
Yeah, I have to say I had those same thoughts. Like, how in the world are we going to train her on everything that she needs to know? And so I thought about how we train our account executives, our solution advisors, our new teammates. And I just went and pulled the low hanging fruit, the big rock things. And luckily, we have, content management systems and other knowledge bases where we keep that. So I did a lot of exporting. And I used then, in comparison, a fraction of the time once I gathered it to just upload it to Ava. And then I started asking her questions, and she got it. I didn't have to do much, if any, corrections. And now we're to a point where maintaining her knowledge is even easier. So when there's a new development, maybe a new country we added for payroll or new services, or we've changed something, I just go talk to her like I would a teammate if I was sharing that information with them. I just do it, via text, or even better, upload a file that some expert team inside of Dayforce put together for the humans. As I share that with Ava, and now she just knows it. She doesn't forget it. I don't have to tell her more than once, and she immediately starts using it in deal scenarios. That's kind of the ideal scenario for a teammate.
Well, let's keep playing on this language that you're using around teammate. Um, did
Mhm.
that like when you introduce this to the individuals that would be partnering with Ava, selling alongside Ava, and you use this language of teammate, how did that help them overcome maybe some of their questions about acceptance or adoption? Because a lot of users are on different spectrums of their comfort level with working with AI in general.
Yeah, there's a couple things that come together in this when we're rolling it out. First of all, if we put it in the category of a tool, then it goes into the bucket of one of the many tools I have to work with to get my job done on a day to day basis. And the natural reaction to that is, oh, another tool. How do I know when to use this one? But when we put it in the context of a teammate and we think about various AI sources as teammates, now it's a little easier for me to think of her as just part of my bidding team. And it's my role as an account executive and pre sales together to kind of orchestrate that team to leverage their expertise in the right places in the opportunity. And so Ava is a member of the team. Except, she's always there when I need her. I don't have to schedule some time on a little gap in her calendar. And she's pretty darn reliable in the information she gives me. So again, one of my rock star teammates in the bidding team, of course.
I love the personification of helping the individual sellers um, figuring out kind of how to partner with a teammate like this in the deal. Now, if
Mhm.
you bubble that up even to your senior leadership level, there's also different levels of experience and expertise or expectations on AI at the decision making and executive level. And I
Mhm.
think you've done a really unique job at, well, how do you champion something like that internally where there's a lot of maybe opinions, there's a lot of experience levels. How did you go about that? How did you introduce Ava to other senior leaders of the org? How did that even come up? And maybe what would you recommend to others that are thinking about how to approach really senior executives about these type of transformations?
Yeah. Well, I really first needed to think about what is top of mind to them. And really good senior leaders are out there talking about that. They talk about it on all Teams calls globally. It's published because that's a really good best practice If everybody knows what direction the boat's supposed to be rowing in, it's a lot easier to help. And so then we connected the dots and we thought about what's in it for that senior leader, but they're also very interested in what's in it for their frontline sales leaders, for their account executives, for their solution advisors. And we connected the dots there as well. So we're really lucky in that we have a senior leadership that cares about making work life better, at the same time, productivity and how that starts at the individual contributor level. And so we found ourselves just positioning those use cases that correlated with the feedback that they hear from the field about what takes them the most time, what the biggest challenge is, and paired that with what they wished everybody was doing better in the field as well.
So now a teammate can come on board. A teammate can work alongside the team. What's the ideal end state? Is it that you have half as many folks doing the same job? Is it that everybody is capable to do more? Is it that people are ramping faster? Is it that they're just winning more? What's the North Star as you guys are really thinking about how a teammate sort of changes the business for sales? What happens 3 months, 6 months, a year from now with the organization at Dayforce?
Yes, well, we are really in growth mode at Dayforce, and I think of essentially three metrics that I would ascribe to Ava being a success in our organization. The first one is increased win rates. So we're going to win more because Ava is going to help us map the very specific, unique problems and organizational goals of a prospective customer to Dayforce solutions, and do that quicker and more tailored and more detailed than anyone else would, or that we have ever been able to in the past. Secondly is to have larger deal sizes, because now not only are we going to tie it to the typical organizational objectives and problem solvings that we have the bandwidth to focus on usually, but we're able to broaden that and help our prospective customer make even more connections to how we can help them make their business better. And then third, and probably the most important for growth, is increasing that capacity. So not have less people, but have the same amount or more people be able to do even more, scale even more than we thought was possible in the past.
I think some of the things, even on the capacity side, maybe you could touch on this, where you do something really unique in your large enterprise pursuits, where you have value advisors and folks that are really coming in, providing detailed analysis of the deals. And
Yes.
normally in a broad organization, that has to only live in the highest value pursuits because of just the cost function of that. And it feels like with Ava, you're actually able to scale down and out to the rest of the org, things that maybe you could only have done at the top sort of number of pursuits that now can be sort of given to everybody on the team. If maybe you can share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think you've touched on a really good point, is that Ava contributes a little bit differently in different segments. And I think about our emerging or small business areas where their volume is high and they do it amazingly well with less resources than, let's say, our large enterprise teams. That's just the nature of the software business, and an organization putting expensive resources where they're going to have the biggest impact. And usually that means that those smaller markets are left with less resources. And so Ava can provide foundational expertise in those areas so that an emerging account executive has even more opportunity to provide a compelling business case without the help of a value advisor. They're able to answer technical questions for IT without having to necessarily involve a technical advisor. And so it gives them access to that expertise without us as a business having to make those teams multiple times bigger than they would have been to have the same coverage.
Phenomenal. And again, the power of a teammate that can scale across these segments. Now, let's contrast that actually with, if it wasn't a teammate, a lot of other language out in the market is around agents and many agents and agents that do tasks. Maybe at its core, how do you think about the difference between an AI teammate and AI agents? And what does it mean to operate a business in one versus the other, or use one approach versus another?
Yes, I think the concept of agents and all of this terminology that has come just with the concepts of AI has brought really new and interesting conversations. But the concept of agents, just so we're talking about the same thing with our audience, I view that as it is a specific, GPT, for example, created in ChatGPT, a specific agent designed to do a very specific task. And so when we go down, if we were to go down that road, we will find ourselves a few months from now with many agents. And now, instead of which tool do I use, the noise will be which agent do I pick from our field account executives and solution advisors. And so we'll find ourselves in a very similar situation, as well as this side as trainers or administrators of those that keep them up to date. Now, every time there's a change in the market, in our messaging, in our product, which happens daily, it feels like, now we have to think through, let's say that 100 or 500 agents that have been written each for specific tasks and get them up to date. Whereas with an AI teammate, where there's that single sales reasoning model, I should say, I just have one place to go and update Ava on our messaging or new product features or a new industry we're stepping into and the details about how we solve problems for it. And she then applies that to any one of those thousands of tasks we might have her doing. And I did it in minutes, whereas I can't imagine it would take significant amount of time and always be behind if I had to do that with hundreds of agents.
Perfect visual tee up, Jennifer. Thanks for painting that picture, because that becomes powerful. Where your point is, I go to like a human team member. I go to one team member. If I was working for Dayforce, you would tell Matt something, and I would immediately know how to apply that across my whole job before, during, after the call, throughout the entire sales process.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's maybe zoom out, and I'll ask you something a little bit more philosophical, if you will, which
Okay.
is how do you see AI reshaping the relationship between maybe humans and technology,
Mm-hmm.
or even your sales team with your customers directly? Maybe take me more broadly and sort of how do you think that we're going to be interfacing and sort of developing bonds with our new AI teammates over time?
Right, right. It's an interesting concept. What a time to be alive and in the workforce, when I was in high school, not everybody had a computer in their house. There was no such thing as an iPhone, and here I am, every day increasing my expectations of the technology around me at a faster pace than I ever did before, and that's because of AI. And I think it's important to also remember that the individuals on our teams are all on their own AI journey, but I find myself now, without even thinking about it, changing my expectation of AI. My least favorite thing to do anywhere is to download files from one place and upload them somewhere else. Now, I want my AI to just go get that information, point it to the source, and have it update on its own. In using ChatGPT lately, I had a series of discussions with some of my peers to gather feedback, and I had to take all those notes and copy and paste them into one ChatGPT conversation. And I found myself a little bit annoyed. But I was actually saving myself hours and hours of time that I would have had to spend in, let's call it, the old world without AI. So how our expectations have changed. And I feel like I'm in the middle of the road on that. So there's some people who still aren't quite there yet, and I have others who are way, way ahead of me. So I think we just have to be mindful of everybody's where they're at, and the ones that are way ahead of me, thank you for blazing the trail, and so that as my expectations grow, they're more likely to be met. And then those that are just starting to come along the journey, we need to be there to help them start to appreciate it and how AI can make their life better every day.
I liked your point about people being ready for certain parts of this journey, where I
Yeah.
even think about Ava working alongside a team where even when we started working with the Dayforce team, it's very much like internal
Mhm.
focused. I could have a chat to Ava. She could do work for me
Yeah.
proactively, and it was there for me. It was done. And then I could start to talk to Ava, and then I
Hmm.
could see her, and she could talk
Hmm.
to me, and then she could be on a call with me, and that's a whole other arc. And maybe how did the ability for somebody on the team to actually maybe see and talk to AI, did that change their psychology around working with a teammate at all, or what was going through their mind?
It's starting to, but we've also, as an organization, done a good job of just being aware of privacy and opt-in and people's consent when it comes to AI. So there are a lot of questions about that. But very quickly people got to like, well, in what scenarios would I be comfortable? This is cool. What scenarios am I right now comfortable using this? And so just the fact that they start to ask those questions to themselves now is progress.
Yeah.
But I would say even having the what is it, popular prompts in Ava. When Ava first came out, she didn't have that. And so you're met with this just blank box that you can prompt and type into. And, deer in the headlights, like, what do I do with this? And popular prompts are an example of people being ahead of me in this kind of learning curve where I found those super helpful. Even though I've used Ava for a few niche
Yeah.
things that I love using her for, I went, oh, I didn't realize I could use her for that. And so it's even more helping myself and the people around me push our expectations of what the AI can do.
That's awesome, Jennifer. Okay, maybe last question to bring it home a little bit is every leader, every board, everybody is figuring out where does AI apply in their workflows
Mm-hmm.
to help them move smarter, faster, better, whether or not it's closing support tickets to automating inbound demand to doing deep research to figuring out how to automate financial workflows or working with sales on a team. So everybody's thinking about this.
Mm-hmm.
So from your chair, you're in these senior leadership conversations. There's all of these areas you could potentially try to apply AI. What would you tell other leaders who are just starting this journey to think about where can AI really move the needle and how could we potentially get started? What advice would you have for them?
Well, I might be answering this in a little bit of a different vein than the question might be intended, but I think we have to really balance and put in check some of the fear around AI, balance that with some reasonable governance, but you have to put the tools out there and then keep your ear to the ground on how people are using them. So when I say kind of bring that fear into check so that you can put those tools out there, but then keep your ear to the ground because everybody in your organization is going to use them in a different way. And there's going to be some really stellar, life changing, business changing ideas that people have that then you want to understand and scale across your organization. So I would say don't expect to do it from the top down or a core AI team out. Crowdsource essentially that AI adoption and how your business is going to use it so that you can keep up with your competition in incorporating it into the most impactful places in your business. And Ava is absolutely one of those tools for us that I'm sure there are people using it in ways I haven't heard of yet that I will be surprised and amazed and I want to make sure the whole team knows about.
I think as a technology builder, I love that advice because of how different building AI is versus
Mhm.
SaaS applications.
Yes.
Because even when you and I were on the phone the other day, you
Mm-hmm.
showcased things that you were demoing internally. I was like, man, I didn't even think of that use
Mm-hmm.
case to do. And it's amazing that you're right. If there's just a centralized team that says we only do these 5 things and we're going to go from there, you're going to miss out on the creativity of what bringing it back to humans do just so very, very well. So
That's right.
now a teammate that could come on board that's very much adept at a very great specific job function here, well, people are going to find the ways that just like a great teammate would on a human side, really bring new things to the table as well. And that's a great
Yeah.
perspective.
And your teammates, your employees, they're using AI out there, whether they're using their own personal ChatGPT license or Notebook LM, they're using it. Hopefully they're using it in a way that is sanctioned and secure and being mindful of what they're putting in there. But organizations need to get to the place where they're putting the right AI tools in the hands of their employees so that they can do it safely but harness that creativity and innovation.
Well, thanks for joining us, everybody, today. Jennifer Jones from Dayforce, phenomenal advice for the audience, and look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks so much for having me, Matt.
That conversation with Jennifer was awesome.
Yeah, we had such a blast filming. I think we're done for the day.
No, we are not done for the day. Vivint Next is just getting started, but you two stick around, cool? All right. I'm gonna call on some go-to-market teammates. Y'all follow me.